morning, this is CNN News, just reporting. More than 250,000 have been reported dead in southern Asia after an undersea earthquake sent enormous waves rolling across the Indian Ocean. The waves measured 8.9 magnitude and was reported as the biggest earthquake and tsunami in 40 years. Waves up to 10 meters high engulfed the coast of many countries. The quake's epicenter was 10 meters of the coast of western Sumatra, and more than 10,000 people are thought to be killed, while in Sri Lanka, which was the second most affected country, has 30,000 killed and a whopping 900,000 people have been reported to be affected. And what's worse is that 40% of these victims were children.
This was Sri Lanka as the seawater flooded inland as thousands have lost their lives and 5% of the population was affected. It had the hardest impact on the east, west and southern coast. Water came inland for several hundred meters. Some victims were washed away as friends and relatives screamed. Sri Lanka's Natural Disasters Management says that this might be the worst disaster that they have experienced. Sri Lanka has also reported that about 1,200 people who were traveling the Queen of the Sea coastal train between Colombo and Gali. The train was struck by the tsunami waves when it was near Gali.
As for the aftermath of the tsunami, about 30,000 people were killed, as well as the number of injuries going off the roof. The 10-meter waves have managed to crash down palm trees on beaches, and some have even managed to stay alive, but only half of them remain. 900,000 people were homeless, and as well as that, buildings like homes, airports, roads, bridges, etc. have been destroyed as well. Some of the buildings have even been rebuilt ever since, while others are left as a ruin or a reminder of this fateful day. With boats and beaches destroyed, as well as fishing spots, fishermen in Sri Lanka have had their trade completely demolished due to the tsunami, making them lose profit and sadly not making a living. God bless them. Survivors may suffer from trauma, and some may even have thalassophobia, which is the fear of the sea. And due to the lack of sanitation present in shelters, diseases like malaria and cholera will eventually spread across rapidly, which has already killed 150,000 in shelters. Due to the huge impact, it has scarred many others for life.
In Sri Lanka's case, people's expectations were dramatically affected by the immediate response of the international community, which promised a massive assistance to tsunami-affected countries and countries in the form of aid flows and debt relief. The impact of these promises on the Sri Lankan community was immediate, with no previous history of such disasters. Sri Lanka was quite unprepared for the tsunami, but with a massive community response followed by the government and international action, it was able to implement an initial relief effort that in the circumstances can be termed a success. The response of Sri Lanka's request for assistance met with an overwhelming response at a meeting of international donors held in Sri Lanka in May 2005. A total $2.2 billion was pledged over the next 2 and 3 years, around $700 million per year. $853 million was promised by the NGO and other private sector organizations, and the remainder of multilateral donors and governments. In fact, this is promised external assistance to meet both continuing relief needs and reconstruction activities was in excess of what the government had requested.